Welcome to the Couples Corner. I'm excited to be in the Couples Corner tonight. As you see, my wonderful wife is not with me tonight. She is taking care of some other business with the family. And so tonight we're going to do a special husband's edition tonight. So I want everybody I want you to share this, invite some people to the conversation. We are about to get into it tonight, and you don't want to miss it. So again, this is going to be a husband's edition of Couples Corner tonight. I do have a few gentlemen who will be joining me tonight, some husbands and a fiance. So we're gonna get into it, and we're gonna talk that real raw talk, and we're gonna have us a good time. So um, I'm gonna invite them in just a second, and then we're gonna pray, and we'll jump right into our conversation tonight. So um, one of the gentlemen that is going to be joining us tonight, he is a husband, he's a father, he's a businessman, and I want you all to welcome Mr. Dwayne Pate to the conversation. What's going on, sir? How you feeling, man?
Feeling pretty good. Excited
Good
for this
stuff.
conversation.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So um, we're gonna invite some other brothers in. We also have Pastor Clavon Burston, who is joining us, and he is going to be jumping in the conversation with us tonight. What's going on, sir? How you feeling?
Doing pretty good, man. I'm blessed. Glad to be
I
here.
know that's right. I know that's right. And then we have this gentleman here who is engaged. And so we'll be able to have that perspective as well tonight. Mr. Richard McLaren. What's going on, Big Rick? How you feeling, brother?
You already know. You already know. It's all good. How y'all
Yes,
doing?
sir.
How y'all doing? It's good.
Hey, so listen, so I'm gonna pray real quick, and then we're gonna jump right into the conversation. For those of you who are joining us, if you are on YouTube, you can share it as well. If you're on Facebook, you can hit the share button and invite some people to the conversation, or just share it on your page. For those of you who are joining us on Instagram, you can hit the little paper airplane at the bottom right and invite some people there as well. So we're going to pray, and then we're going to jump right into it, guys. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for another opportunity to gather together in the Couples Corner. We thank you, Lord, for these men who are going to share tonight in this husband's edition of the Couples Corner. We pray, Father, that something that we say, that it will be able to shed light and understanding to what it is that you have called us to do in this position and role as a husband. We pray, Father, that you would allow this to run smoothly, oh God, and that all will be done, that your people will be able to be empowered, Lord, that it will cause our relationships to be stronger, to be better, to grow, that we will be wiser, and that as a result of this, Lord, that you'll be glorified and that our relationships will be able to last. We love you and we thank you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
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 All
Amen.
right. So, again, like I told you, tonight is the husband's edition of the Couples Corner. And so that's what we're going to jump into talking tonight. We have three husbands and a fiance. So we're going to get it from all perspectives. And we'll be able to get into it. Now, to be fair, although he is a fiance, he does have experience in marriage because he was married before. So he's engaged to get married again, but he still has some insight that he can share. And so, of course, when we get into it, we'll get into it. So listen, let's start off with the first topic that we'll discuss, and that's the power of your voice. So as husbands, we have the responsibility to cover our families. Ultimately, we're the leader of our family, and so I want to discuss the power of your voice. So you, as a man, as a husband, the voice that you have with your family, how does that work with you and for you? Do you think that it is a good thing that you have the voice that you have, or do you think that it is a tough situation to be in, to have to be the voice for the family sometimes? Anybody can jump in.
Well, I'll go ahead and jump in. I think being the voice of your family carries a lot of weight. I think as men, we know the weight that we sometimes put on our shoulders that we shouldn't have to. But it's just the nature. I think it's the nature of the beast when we assume that role as husbands, as fathers, and different things like that. So I think our voice carries weight. It's a difficult place because you have to understand that everybody that's in your immediate family falls under your covering and falls under your leadership. So if you're not given the proper leadership, you're not leading them if you're not properly leading yourself, then you're not going to be able to properly lead them. And I think that's where it really starts, with our voice and with knowing who we are as an individual. Because in order for you to kind of give leadership, you got to know where you are. You got to know your triggers. You got to know the things that you have to set boundaries up against. You have to know all those different things so that you can help navigate your family through that. And then when you bring in a wife, kids, and learning their different personalities and having to navigate that, it becomes a challenge. So, know it. So your voice is important, but you have to know who you are outside of your role. And I think that plays a part. Because if you don't know who you are outside of your role, you can get lost, and you can kind of, you'll be a voice, but it's not a clear and resounding voice. It's more of a comfortable, complacent voice that allows things to kind of go as they go, but not really challenging anything to kind of move forward. So, from my perspective, you have to know yourself first to be able to lead your family. And then once you know yourself and you're leading and you're being led by God, and as far as how to lead your family, then I think that becomes a lot easier. And when you get into the whole topic of raising children, that's a whole different thing, because you gotta, the amount of work that you have to put in with your relationship with your wife, you have to do the same thing for your children, for each child that you have. And like Marcus, I was trying to catch up with him, but I wasn't able to get there, so I only got 4. So knowing that and having 4 different individuals in addition to my wife that I have to, impart, know their personalities, know how to work with them, and know how to kind of push them and motivate them in the direction that I need them to go, so that they can see the full vision of what God has put me in store, put me in place to share with them.
Gotcha. That's good stuff.
Well, Marcus, I'll chime in now. I think the voice is the word V basically leads me to say the vision. So the voice is the vision. So my voice is going to lead us to the vision of what the family, I hope to have the family move in that direction. I think that the power of the voice comes with a lot of weight, but yet and still, I welcome the weight. You know what I'm saying? I want it. I really want it, man. I want that weight to come on, and I want to carry that weight because I want to be the man. I want to be the leader of my household. I want to be the voice of my household, and I want to be the visionary of my household, and I want to communicate that. So therefore, with a voice, I communicate that. And that trickles down from my wife to the kids to whoever is involved in our household and our family. So I love the power of the voice. I think the power of the voice, like the gentleman said before, comes with a lot of weight, but in the same token, I welcome it, man. I've been married before and had some challenges, and sometimes the voice wasn't heard. But right now, I'm really welcoming that voice. I'm welcome to be able to speak, share my vision, and have people follow and lead with me. And I think, like you, which I really applaud you and your wife, you guys have a succinctness, like a 1-step, 2-step. Y'all in sync. And that's what I'm welcoming in my household moving forward with my voice.
That's good stuff. So now with the voice, though, of course, there's layers to it, right? We understand the weight, we understand the responsibility. But how do you deal with the moments where you have to be the voice that is going to be the uncomfortable conversation? That voice that has to have the uncomfortable conversation, or the voice that has to give the no in some instances where they're looking for a yes. Because I often say that sometimes our wives and our children don't hear the protection in our no. They only hear the denial. So sometimes that voice and that responsibility of the voice, it puts you in a position where you have to then speak some things or say some things or declare some things that may not be favorable to those who are in the hearing of it. So how do you handle those moments when you have to be that voice in uncomfortable situations?
I mean, some stuff you just gotta do, and you gotta do it scared. Honestly, it's like I don't have a handbook. I mean, I don't have a manual of how to work this thing called marriage. I have people that show examples, but every marriage is different. So it's like you have to kind of tailor your marriage to, you have to tailor a handbook to your marriage and just kind of use the foundational principles. For me, it's just all about really almost kind of like pumping myself up to have that difficult conversation, because it's like you you need to have it, but it's like I know I need to have it, and I know I have to initiate it, because if I don't initiate it, it won't happen. The conversation won't happen. So it's like, all right, let me get myself up, and just kind of prepare myself, and it's gonna be rough. It's difficult conversations are meant to be had, because if you don't have them, you'll never grow. And I think that's very essential in any marriage. Like if you have a marriage or you're in a relationship, then y'all don't have at least one disagreement, something's wrong.
Yeah. Something ain't right. Somebody ain't being honest.
Somebody's not being honest, and I think that's when you come into, when you have your issues. So I think just really being honest, open and honest, and willing to bring those things to the forefront. Even if you have to take, a few moments, maybe write it down. You just got to know what works for your family and your unit to be able to address certain situations. Some people grow up in households that was built on conflict. So addressing them with conflict is not going to help you, because all that's going to do is put up their defenses and make them want to fight. Where you might have to just take a different approach, and that's what happens when learning your spouse and learning your significant other, so that you can take the different approach to reach them where they need to be reached, so they can hear what you're saying, so they can hear your heart, and oftentimes not what you're saying, because sometimes we don't all what we're saying might not always be conveyed like from our heart, and we just got to make sure that they hear that we're in this together. We try and put this together. We try and make it work, but let's hear what I'm saying, but don't hear my tone. As my wife always said, it's not what you say, it's the tone and what you say. It's like, all right, I got it. Right. So
I get
that. He's speaking the truth right there, man. So I just got off the golf course. This is par for the course. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be bad. It's gonna be sweet. It's gonna be hard times, good times. It's gonna be a rough day sometimes. So what I've learned in life, man, I'm learning this, man, and I'm the ripe age of 63, man, and I've been blessed to learn this over my years, man. And with my significant other now is connecting the dots. Sell the vision up front. This is the vision that we're going to go. So whenever I go and I have a hard conversation, I relate it back to the vision. I relate it back to something that she can correlate and say, okay, I get it now. And yeah, it's not going to be easy all the time. And like my brother said there, man, it's how you deliver it.
Absolutely.
It's how you deliver is 90% of the problem. Sometimes you don't know what to do. And I catch myself now with my significant other now. I gotta make sure I come at it correctly and think about it before I say it, and do it in the proper manner that she's going to receive it in the manner in which I'm giving it and understand it. So that's why I correlated with what our vision is and what we're trying to go and what we're trying to do. And yes, it doesn't come across all the time correctly. And yes, she doesn't take it like I want her to take it. But at the same token, at the end of the day, we get to a place where we're in commonality and we move forward.
Gotcha. So here's one of the comments that one of the people said. It said, our voice is always a hard task in the home, but it's our God-given place. Your voice doesn't always have to be loud, but it must be full of wisdom. Wives and children will respect a voice that has a vision, compassion, and love. Your voice must be earned. My experience in my 31 years of marriage. Great convo. Yeah, that's first of all, I applaud your 31 years of marriage. That's the first thing. We need to start there. Because that shows a level of commitment, and you don't get to 31 years of anything without staying the course. You know what I'm saying? But I think that when you realize that your voice is important, delivery is a key to anything. You can be thirsty, you can be dying of thirst, but it's the glass that I give you the water in that's going to determine whether you want to drink it or you are willing to stay in that thirsty state because of the way I'm delivering what you even need. So in those moments that we're delivering what we have to deliver, the delivery does matter. It is about the presentation. A lot of that, is important because number one, we all function in some sense of management, right? So you understand you have to know your personnel. There are some things that you can't say to certain people because they just aren't going to respond or receive it in a manner that is, you know, where they're going to be receptive and they're actually going to carry it out. So sometimes you can be saying the right thing, but if you say it the wrong way, they'll never hear your message. They'll only hear your delivery. So, you know, when you have that type of environment, you have that type of situation, then you end up putting yourself in a place where the goods that you are providing, the goods that you are presenting are looked over, they're sat down, they're cast aside because your delivery was offensive while your message was necessary. So, you know, having that voice and understanding the power in your voice is important. But one point that I do want to make is we have to make sure that we don't misuse our power. Because we're in the position, because we do have the power, it doesn't mean that nobody else has power. And a good leader distributes the power so that they aren't overwhelmed with having to do everything because you have a partner. Sometimes as men, we get overwhelmed because we try to keep everything and do everything ourselves and not even utilize the helpmate that we have. We won't relinquish any of the power. We won't relinquish any of the authority, and we will just keep them in a place where they are stuck trying to please us while they're being miserable because we're misusing our power and not even giving room or space to them in the voice that they have as well. So the fact that we do have power in our voice should not mean that we don't still share the power that we have.
Wow.
Pastor Clay, I know you had to jump off and jump back in. Is there something you wanted to add to that? So, all right. So before we move on to the next piece, here's another comment that came in and said, "That's where even in your no, you portray love, wisdom, and compassion. Have to be wise before having the conversation. Timing may be a factor. What is the tone in the house at the time?" That is very important too, because some things you can't just say or do without ensuring that it's the right time, it's the right environment, it's the right mood, all of that. You know, it's you got to be careful with all of that because all of that matters. All of that goes into the whole thing. So it becomes something that it becomes something that you're gonna have to do and see and figure out. But it's important that you not give up on your voice and that you not shy away from the challenge of being the voice.
I got a question for you, Marcus, and the panel as well, man, because I know a long time from my dad, man. My dad was a wise pastor, and he shared with me something he struggled with early on in his marriage, is that he knew he was the power, he was the voice, he was the man, but there was a point in time where he had to make a decision that there are things that I'm weak in, that she's strong in, that she has a better voice in than I have a better voice in, or a more organized or greater voice in than I do, and he relinquished that power to her, that voice to her, and he let it go. And she had the power in that environment, whether it been finance or whether it been the household or whether it been the kids, whatever it was. How you guys feel about that?
I think that's wisdom, right? So, all right, being a business owner, you're a business owner, but while you are the owner and realistically you have the last say, there are people that are in place that do things that you don't do. And you give them the freedom and the liberty to do it because that's your expertise. It doesn't mean that I'm still not in charge because you're doing a great job at what you're doing. So that's why that ego can't get in the way. And I always say, for any man that has to announce who he is and what he is, you aren't that. Because when you are that, you don't have to announce it. When you got to run around saying, I'm the man of this house, I'm the husband, I wear the pants. When you have to do that, evidently you're not, or you wouldn't have to make that statement if it was present. You know, you're making that statement because you evidently want some type of response that you aren't getting. You want some type of respect that you feel you aren't getting. And so now you're trying to throw weight around saying, I'm the man, I'm the husband, I'm the this. But if you have to announce it, apparently you aren't functioning in it, because now somebody else has to, hear you say that that's who you are.
True.
And that's, go ahead.
No, I want to hear. Go ahead, Pastor Cole.
Can you hear us now?
I don't think he can.
Yeah, your mic is muted. Your mic is muted. You didn't connect your mic. You got to connect your mic. So let's look at this next piece, right? So let's talk about provision and protection, because with provision and protection, we have been only, as men, most times we have been living on this provision and protection, meaning provision is money and protection is fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not reality, because there's more to provide than money, and there's more to protect than physical. So when we talk about provision and protection, how do you approach that, and what do you see that as being?
That's a lot. I'm gonna start with provision, and I'm very open about this and very honest about this. Like, from a provision standpoint, like when I came into my marriage, I knew that I would not be the breadwinner. I knew based off the career path that I chose, I knew that I wouldn't be the breadwinner, and based off the career path my wife chose, I knew that she will always be, make more money than me and things like that. So for me, early on, it would, provision became providing her what she needed, that money couldn't provide. That's right. Being present, right. Making sure that I'm taking care of, what she needs to take care of the house, take care of responsibilities that I feel as though I am tasked to take care of. Like, my wife, she's not taking the car to the dealership. Right. I'm going to do that. If I can fill up her gas tank and she don't have to do it, I'm gonna try to anticipate and do stuff like that. So for me, it was more so, just kind of finding my place and how I can help her. Now, for me, the money was never an issue. As long as she loved me and as long as she treated me with respect, that is just something that's just an added benefit. And, and we just learned to kind of navigate that. And for me, provision just became providing for her in ways that she needed me to provide. Like for her, my wife, sometimes she just needs my presence there. She don't need me to talk. She don't need me to say nothing. She just wants me to be close. And then times she needs me to encourage her. So learning how to navigate that and just kind of provide that provision for her from that perspective. And for the protection part, we are, as men, we strive to be, if something happens to our wife, we're going to protect our wives. Right. But it's not only physical, it's mental. It's emotional, it's relational. And sometimes because of our emotional unavailability, we can ultimately hinder our wife or not protect them the way we should be protecting them. If we don't, and it all goes back to dealing with ourselves and how we lead ourselves, and how to navigating the different emotions that we have. I'll be the first one to admit that I haven't always protected my wife emotionally. I might have said something to hurt her or may have pushed her away. But for me as the husband, I had to come and acknowledge that and say, hey, I apologize, and just kind of and how can I grow from this so that I don't put you in that position again where you feel like you have to retreat and you don't feel like I can protect your feelings emotionally, and also understanding the some of the root of the things that I'm dealing with, maybe not my cause, but they're just things that maybe happen as we grew up through our childhood, how we were parented. And I think learning to navigate those early on in the marriage will help you tremendously, because you know the triggers, you know what not to do, what you can do. And it's a growing process, but you have to make sure at the end of the day, you are protecting them mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Sometimes we leave that out.
Right.
Because, you know, we focus on the other things. We focus on the things that we can see, instead of the things that we don't see. So, you know, we have to make sure that we are praying for our wives, and covering them each and every day when they get on our nerves, when they when we're frustrated, when we are upset, when we're ready to throw in the towel. We still have to cover them, because that's what we've been commanded to do. And as long as we keep, as we say, we keep God first, and then making sure that we are, you know, really listening and being in tune with what He's saying, and surrounding ourselves with like-minded people. I think sometimes we don't understand the impact that has on relationships when you begin to surround yourself with like-minded people, like-minded couples, that are trying to go where you're trying to go, and trying to stay married and be married, and not just complain about being married, but really work on it, because it's a job in actuality, and you have to work it, because if you don't work it, you know, it's going to fail.
Absolutely. That's good stuff. Absolutely. I say all the time that, because you mentioned about, you know, when they get on your nerves or things aren't the greatest or whatever, like, I think for some reason, you know, number one, this society that we live in today is a different type of people, because, you know, they're a one and done society. You got one time to make me mad. You got one time to do something I dislike, and it's over. You know, we have no staying power. We have no commitment. You know, the first sign or the first disappointment, we gone. And that's not what marriage is. And I think that somewhere along the line, somebody got the wrong email, the wrong memo, thinking that there was contingencies in marriage. You didn't say your vows and say that I will be this type of husband if you're this type of wife, that I will maintain this type of commitment, or I'll provide this type of, or I'll be there if you this. It is not on your level of being a husband, and your responsibility and requirement of being a husband has nothing to do with the type of wife you have. It's the commitment that you made to the office that you are taking to be a husband. If she is the greatest wife in the world, or if she is the worst wife in the world, that has nothing to do with the type of husband that you're supposed to be.
I don't know if Pastor Cole's mic is working yet. He hasn't spoken yet. Pastor Cole, your mic's working? No.
Yeah, it's working now. I'm sorry, y'all. So I just got back in. I'm not really sure what you guys even talking about.
Right.
Now you topic?
You good. We on provision and protection right now.
Okay.
And so, you know, I was saying, like, when we first started out, the only provision and protection we knew about was providing money and protecting physically. But there's more to provision and protection than money and, you know, fight.
Got you. Yeah, I think many men are really attempting to navigate through this new masculinity. I think our fathers and grandfathers and great-grandfathers had a clearer picture of what it meant to be masculine, to be a man, and I think some of these new age ideologies are they sound good in theory, but I don't believe that they work in the real world. I think women really want a man. I think women, they're more comfortable, because if you listen to women today, they complain about the lack of men, but what they really mean is there's a lack of men.
Right. You breaking up a little bit.
Where you can't yell at your kids, you can't beat them, you can't, you know, say And a lot of parents are frustrated because they just don't know what to do, because everything that they were taught to do before is now considered, negative or bad parenting. So I think that men, I do believe that men, and it's a hard question also, because a lot of men, I heard.
You breaking up. You going in and out.
You're going in and out, Dr. Cole. So why he's going out, Marcus, is it okay if I speak?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm from the old school, right? So my father raised me to provide, which is money,
right,
and to protect, which is protecting my household.
Right.
And I've learned over the years, like the earlier pastor said, there's more to that that meets the eye. You know what I mean? So in the old school, they taught you provide for your family. You bring the money home, you provide a roof over their head, you provide food, you provide transportation, gas, all the other things you need. And they didn't, in the old school, in the old days, even though they might have did it, they never taught us about how to nurture the woman, how to covenant the woman, how to guard her, put a covenant over her that she doesn't walk into a room full of hate or a room full of different types of emotions, and you get her and you covered her. And my brother said so beautiful, man. And my father was a pastor, even though I know he taught this, but he never taught us this in the vein of talking it, spiritually covering her. You know what I mean? And even though I know he covered my mom, I know he did.
Yeah.
But he would say, son, you need to do this. You know what I mean? He said you need to provide and protect. So he wanted us to learn those underlings of what that means. And I tell you, it takes a lot of years and takes a lot of nurturing, because as you know, women are from Mars and men from Venus, whatever it is. We're from two different places. You know what I mean? I'm telling you this right now. Now I have a fiance now that is showing me what protection means to her. And it doesn't mean fighting.
Right.
It means covering her when she's in a bad situation, or if she's in a conversation that she doesn't need to be in. If she's in a room with people she doesn't need to be in. If she's out of order, I need to grab her and pull her out of that situation and cover her and tell her why I'm doing what I'm doing, instead of just have to come in with a fight or argument, whatever the case may be. And she's teaching me that every day. It's amazing. Women, I say this all the time, and Marcus knows this. Women are some powerful people, man. They see things that we don't see as guys, and they don't see what guys see. But really, women just got a whole different perspective of things. The things I'm doing now, I thought I would never do. You know what I mean?
Right.
But guess what? It's necessary. If I want to be in a good, healthy relationship, I got to understand emotion. I got to understand spirituality. I got to understand the physical side of things. I got to understand the money side of things. I got to understand everything that she's about and what she's doing, because that goes like this on a day-to-day basis. And I got to be able to roller coaster this thing all the way through, man.
Right.
It's powerful, man. It's good.
Absolutely. And I think that, the emotional aspect of provision is the thing that gets the least amount of attention. And honestly, I think it gets the least amount of attention out of ignorance on our side as men, because as boys, we were always taught to leave our emotional side alone. We wasn't supposed to cry. We wasn't supposed to dwell on stuff. We were supposed to get over it. We were supposed to get up and keep going. We were supposed to do all of these things, but we were never taught how to embrace or never taught how to manage our emotions. And I believe that because we were never properly taught how to manage our emotions, we turned them off and never figured out how to turn them back on. And I think that became the root, along with lust, with why we were able to, as men, begin to deal with so many women, simply because we were not connected or involved in our emotional state. So we only dealt with the physical state of it. And then we end up hurting and damaging women that are for someone else. So I kind of use an analogy when it comes to the amount of women that we messed over before we got to the one that was really ours. Before we got to our rib, we took some other man's rib and was shaving her and trying to force her to fit us, when that we weren't her fit. She wasn't for us, but yet we're trying to force her to fit us, and we're shaving off and carving this and doing that, and then realize we're tired of trying to do that, and now we're not dealing with you anymore. And then she gets with the person she's supposed to be with, and she don't fit him right, and it's not his fault, it's our fault because of what we did and how we tried to force her to fit us when she was never our fit. And part of that was because we were never approaching the situation from the right place, or even with the right spirit, not even looking for a rib, just knowing that we should have one.
I'm back. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you now.
We got you now.
Okay, great. Yeah. So, men are often simplistic in everything. We eat the same food at the same restaurant, take the same way to work, and what this is probably going to start creating a challenge for that's why I'm here. I think men have a very simplistic approach to relationship. I think it's a false narrative that men are dogs and women are not.
Absolutely.
Most men, I don't think men are born dogs. I think men I think when they're young, I don't think men have a very simplistic understanding of women and relationships and humanity, human nature. And I believe.
Wow. Hate that brother going in now. He's deep. He getting it in too.
Well, I'm gonna pick up on it, and he can finish it when he jump back in. But I think that it's a learned behavior. And if we be honest, I really think that a good portion of it came from the women that we were connected to, who taught us how to manage more than one woman. But go ahead, pick back up where you were.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so I think that when men are young, for all of us as men, we had that first girlfriend, so clear on who we were to them. And I think at the heart of every promiscuous man is a little boy that got his feelings hurt by a young lady.
Right.
And he said, I will never let that happen to me again.
Absolutely.
I can remember, my first love broke my heart. And it changed the way I saw women. It changed my approach to my, because when I was young, I thought all girls are good. And all girls, need to be protected, and all girls are just nice and loyal, right? It's a trick, right? And and then and I've seen so many young brothers. A close friend of mine was a faithful man. I mean, faithful to his girlfriend. He's away in college, and she's here in Baltimore, and he said, "I'm not cheating on my girl, never, no way." And then he caught her cheating on him, and it changed him. And then he became a dog, a terrible dog. So I don't think that men are just inherent, women too, and they have and I think a lot of men who became promiscuous were looked at by a female years ago, and now to manage that down, and he became the opposite of what he was initially because of that.
Absolutely.
And that's so I think if men can heal that and then recover from that 6-year-old little boy was saying, how old you were, 15 or 14, I think a man can heal that person. I think
absolutely
everything else are coming into play. I believe that.
I do. And I think that if we can get in, first of all, there's a little boy in every man. And we have to accept the fact that just because you are over 21 doesn't make you a man. There are some big boys in the world. And just because of your size and your age, it doesn't make you a man. And so we have to get out of that mindset of thinking that oh, because I'm of age, I'm a man, or oh, because I've been in a relationship before, I know what I'm doing. And we have to be taught, but the other thing is we need some teachers. And that's part of where the problem lies, that there aren't as many teachers. And because men are visual, we need visible teachers. We need people who are examples of what we're supposed to do and what we're supposed to be. Part of what I think when it comes to provision and when it comes to protection, that becomes a challenge is because that's something that we did not see often enough. Many of us didn't grow up in a two-parent home. Many of us didn't grow up with our natural father being in the house. We might have grown up with mommy having a boyfriend or her even marrying, but he wasn't our father. And, we accepted him because it's who mommy had or whatever the scenario. But the consistency of seeing what's right, of seeing it done the right way becomes a struggle when you don't have that. You don't have access to that and you don't see that consistently, because we learn by what we hear and by what we see. And so sometimes we are expected to forget what we saw and only listen to what we heard. When you gave me a talk one time, but I saw 18 years of this. So what I saw outweighs what I heard because of the consistency of it. So because it's what I saw, it's easier for me to become that because it's what I saw. And it's easy for me to imitate something, even if it isn't the right thing, because of the consistency of it. So I think that with that provision and us not being, taught how to effectively provide spiritually, effectively to provide emotionally, we were only told that you need to provide, financially. And so that's why most men love to harp on the fact that, oh, I can take you to this restaurant, or I can fly you to here, or we can go on this vacation, because your strength and your context as a man is in what your pockets can do. And so, but there's so much more that this woman needs that in many instances we aren't providing and we aren't protecting. So, you have to be a strong man, and realistically, you need to be a healed man to efficiently do your role as a husband. Because if you're not a healed man, then you will bring your hurt into some innocent situations and do damage.
One thing I learned in life, man, I've been learning this. A good woman gonna show you. She's gonna teach you. She's gonna show you. She's gonna make it evident that she needs.
Right.
It's a question if you're able to hear, adapt, make changes, concessions, whatever you want to call it, and make that incident or that happening happen for her. It's key, man. It's key, because we think on a totally different level as guys, man. We are very superficial. Like the guy said, we're simplistic in nature. We're very superficial. Women dive deep in almost every subject we talk about. They're deep, they're a little bit deeper, another layer deeper. And until we're able to get to that level where they're at and understand them and respect that and earn that and listen and comprehend and take it and apply it, we struggle. You know what I mean? We struggle.
And I think part of that is because we as men struggle with vulnerability. We because, and again, it goes back to what we were taught. We were taught that being vulnerable was a sign of weakness. You were soft, you were sensitive, and so you then create this shell. You create and build this wall that you won't allow anyone to get through, and so they actually never get to your heart. And that's why so many women get hurt before you open up yourself and become vulnerable to the one that you actually give yourself to. You've taken so many other women and their vulnerability, but you were never vulnerable with them.
Right.
Whoa. Go ahead, brother. I'm sorry.
No, you good. I was just agreeing with him. I think that vulnerability piece is very pivotal in any relationship, and as men, because for so long we didn't know how to be vulnerable. And I, I like to use myself, even myself. It's been periods in my marriage when I haven't been the most vulnerable with my wife, and just kind of kept stuff to myself because that's what I've been accustomed to doing as a child. Right. But it wasn't until I realized how much not only was it hurting me, but it was hurting my wife, because I'm keeping stuff to myself. when I should be discussing with my wife so she can help me, and I don't have to figure it out for myself. And I think that's one of the beauties of marriage is that when you get to that point where you're vulnerable enough to share like anything on your heart and what's on your mind, it provides a level of intimacy that can only be achieved once you are honest with yourself and honest with your spouse. And I think when men get to that point of being vulnerable, we'll have a lot more healthy relationships, but we don't like to have difficult conversations.
Absolutely.
And when we do, we become defensive. And I think we was talking about this earlier. We become defensive, and we're not listening with our heart, but we're listening with our emotions or our feelings, and we allow, well, I don't like the way you did that. Well, let's talk about why you don't like it. Let's get to the root of the issue so that we don't have to keep coming back to the same thing. Because clearly, I'm not doing something right, and I'm not listening correctly, or I'm not listening intently like you need me to. So I think that is pivotal to any relationship, and for us as men, as husbands, to make sure that we commit to staying vulnerable with our wives.
I like it. Go ahead, jump in there, Pastor.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. So
yeah, you jumping on that part.
Yeah. So I guess I'm the old head in ideology. So divorce rates are at an all-time high.
Right.
And doing my own research, a few years ago, I was preparing for a couples seminar at our church, and I discovered that for the first time in history or something, it was maybe 10 or 15 years ago, that divorces over finances has surpassed divorces based on infidelity.
Absolutely.
So what that told me was that people have learned how to get over infidelity, but they can't get past the fact that you didn't pay the mortgage.
Absolutely.
You cheated on me, and we can work past that.
Right.
But we cannot work past
these lights being out
2 months behind, every 6 months. Right. And I love that there's this new vulnerability that we're seeing in men, but I do believe that there has to be a fine line, because when people complain, you got to listen, and not listen only to attack, but to see if there's some value.
Exactly.
And what women are saying is that men today, and I believe that's why some of our marriages are having a hard time, that men are, providing emotional support, but not any real support.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Where women, are holding it down, and our brothers are kind of, we want to talk about it. And I know I don't want to talk about it. I want to, do something about our situation.
Right.
And that fell on the shoulders of men. Mm-hmm. And in our development and in our evolution, there are some parts of us that we cannot lose.
Absolutely.
That as men, we are to be a place of safety for our family, because, as men in our homes, we are supposed to be a semblance of God.
Absolutely.
Where our children come to us for help.
Right.
And we are, and so if our children need provision, it is our job to provide financially, so that our daughters, and sons know that the corners don't need you, because you have a father who will be a provider for you.
Right.
So my son should never, if he goes outside and sells drugs, right, it's not because his father didn't provide.
Right.
My daughter should never have to go out in the streets and do all kinds of things with men because her father can't provide for her. Right. And so I think that we can't lose that, because I think the men of our time, of this generation, are great lovers. They're great love makers. Right. But they're making, they're making babies, and men now are spending more time with their children than men from previous generations, stuff like that. But I think the part they're missing is the provision part.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the financial provision, and that's super important. And as men, I don't want us to lose that. Because I said earlier, but I got cut off. You know, Dwayne said we got to pray over our wives, but a lot of men don't come to church no more.
Right.
Yep, they don't come to church. They ain't thinking about God. They ain't praying for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know. So and I think a lot of that comes from in church. I think that we presented the space of men who are weak.
I believe that.
And I believe that's why they cleave to the Nation of Islam, because they project strength.
Right.
Whether it's false strength or
right.
whatever it is, but men like strength, and you know, so they love Farrakhan, and then they love, you know, Elijah Muhammad, because they, you know, project strength. And then I think that, you know, if we get men to pray, you gotta get them saved first. And if we don't get them saved, I think we got to show them that, you know, be disciples. So because we can't be men who shout, kiss our children, love our children, pray for them, but then, you know, our kids are struggling, and the world's men are taking better care of their families than we are.
Yep. And I think part of our issue is that we don't know how to compartmentalize. So we don't know how to multitask. And so because we graduated from that original state of provision and that original state of protection, and we gained some new stuff, we threw the old stuff out,
right,
and just focused on the new instead of keeping the old and adding the new. So because we don't know how to compartmentalize, we think that we can only do one thing at a time. So if I'm going to be a provider, and I'm not focusing on the money, then we, you know, because truth be told, statistics also say that there are far more men filing for divorce today than there are women. So, you know, part of that is the fact that you don't feel valued, you don't feel appreciated as a man, but part of that value is what she's looking for, the strength of, because if you listen to a woman that says, I don't need a man, she's not saying she don't need a man because she don't need companionship. She's saying she don't need a man because she making enough money to provide for herself.
Come on now.
You know, that provision that she's talking about, I don't need a man, is not, I'm not looking to be a housewife, and I'm not looking to be a dependent. I'm independent. And so if you're going to come into my life, it won't be for money. It'll be for companionship. And so, you know, because that's what most men, that was the escape for men. Money was the escape for men. If I wanted to get you quiet, I give you hush money. Go buy yourself something. Go do something nice for yourself. And that took everything off your mind. But the reality is, it never fixed the problem. It just gave you some time to get away from the issue. But for us to be real providers and for us to be real protectors, we have to learn to be holistic. So my provision has to be holistic. I need to be able to provide for you financially, but I also need to be able to provide for you spiritually. And I need to be able to provide for you emotionally, well as, you know what I'm saying? Like, I need to be able to provide for you on all angles. Listen, the reason that cheating happens, people don't like to talk about cheating, but it's a reality. And, all cheating is not sex. The reason that cheating happens is because there is an area that is not being addressed and someone else is addressing it. And we oftentimes associate cheating only with a man being with another woman. No, you can cheat with your homeboy, because if your wife is supposed to be your best friend, then she should be covering your areas. Right. But the reason that you have this best friend over here is because there are some things that you can discuss, some things that you can do that you can't do with her. It's not just about history, but people don't want to be honest, because it's not just about that you've been my homeboy since we was in the 3rd grade. No, it's about the fact that my wife don't like football, and the majority of our conversation is about football. So I'm cheating on my wife with you because she don't do football. So whatever that missing area is what we will cheat with. And so when it's all said and done, of course, you know, nobody likes to have conversations about cheating, and nobody ever wants to take ownership for cheating, because in cheating, somebody is always a victim. But the reality is in that somebody was not providing and somebody was not protecting.
Yeah.
Whoa.
You ready to cause a fight on here, boy. And then women you talking about, I gave him everything. I gave him everything he wanted.
No, you didn't.
You tell them they ain't doing enough.
But here's the thing.
I mean, but,
right?
but I think is you have to have those conversations, because if you don't, that's how things go down. I think when you're afraid to, it goes back to being vulnerable. It goes back to opening up and saying, this is what is the issue. And sometimes, you can run into situations where that is not getting met, and people wonder why it happens when in actuality you allowed it to happen because you weren't trying to fill those areas.
Now, in defense, I think that as men, because number one, we need to fix the fact that men cheat more, women cheat more, men get caught more. But that's a whole nother conversation.
That's a whole nother
conversation. That's a whole nother conversation. Women cheat more, but men get caught more.
Now,
I'm gonna get a T-shirt say that. I'm gonna get a T-shirt that says.
But here's the thing: in the defense, right? It really comes down to honesty. Mm-hmm. Honesty is the reason that it happened. Wow. So what we don't do is have honest conversations. We give enough information, but we don't give the truth, right? So what ends up happening is when you're talking about getting married and you're talking about, whatever. So before I got married, right, me having my wife become my wife, I did not properly give her realistically what her real role and responsibility was. The reason is because I was hiding some of the things that other people were doing. Right. So if I had 3 women, I can't say that in order for you to be my only one, this is what you have to do. You have to fill the void of what these 3 women combined were able to give me. And all of them, it wasn't about sex. But because I was not honest in our dating to say, in order for you to have all of me, this is what I need, because I was hiding women. And we do the same thing in marriage. We don't have those honest conversations because we're still hiding stuff. We're still hiding. That's why you're trying to figure out, well, where them shoes come from? She bought them shoes 6 months ago. They was just in the closet. She knew she couldn't just pull them out when she just came to the store. So they were hiding. And then she brought them out and wore them. And you saying, when you had them? She said, I've been had those. She ain't lying. But they still the first time that you wore it. So it's just about us not being honest. And if we were able to be honest and say, man, she gonna give me some eyes. Don't do that. If we are being honest to say that, listen, it takes this. I need all of this. I was hanging with my homeboys because we did this, and I like to eat out, and we were doing this, and you like to be home. So when I'm hanging with my homeboys, it's not about me just hanging with them because we want to hang. I like to eat out, and you don't. So now my real reason for hanging with them is because I know we're going to go eat somewhere. But that's the truth that sometimes I don't even know is a truth to be able to share with you. So now I'm not being completely honest because I didn't take enough time to be with myself to find out what I really need.
Yeah. That's that's so true.
That goes back to many of us when we got married. It was under the idea and not under reality. If that makes sense, right? Like we got married with the idea of having a spouse and being married, and the whole idea of being husband and wife. Some of us, I'm not going to say all of us, but it's kind of like we had an image that's been portrayed to us, but we didn't necessarily do the work to kind of understand the totality of that image.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go out on a limb. I don't think we also had people like older gentlemen. I know for me, I didn't always had an older gentleman that kind of pulled me to the side and say, "Hey, this is what I know you think about getting married. This is what marriage looks like.
Yeah,
this is what you got to expect." And I think for me, that would have been very beneficial. Me and my wife. I got married at 24. My wife was 22.
You muted somehow.
Got muted. When I say, Marcus, what I would say to this subject too, man, is I always refer to my dad. My dad was a pastor, and he said he used to always tell me, man, his hardest job was marriage. They never knew what marriage was.
Right.
They were learning as they went along. Just like when kids came along, they never knew how to raise kids. They were learning as they were going along.
Right.
Like I was the oldest baby. They called me the test tube baby. They tested everything on me, and they knew what to do the next 4. You know what I mean? So
right.
That's kind of how their marriage worked. And like I said about the other thing about marriage, what they did, they learned early. My mother, I give my mother the grace, man, that she told my dad, he had to explain to him, you have certain weaknesses that where I'm strong, you need to let me be strong. And he relinquished that. He had to let it go, and he let it go 100%. And ever since then, their marriage started to flourish in areas they never thought would flourish again. And I say that we're all kind of practicing this thing. Man. You know that, Marcus. Like when you first started out, you're practicing, and you're learning. You're learning as you go along. You're getting it together. But there's a time when you got to stop practicing and put application into play as well. You know what I mean? But we're all practicing, trying to learn what we don't know, and learn what we do know, or relearn what we've already unlearned, or get ready to learn, whatever the case may be. We just gotta get it together, man. I think that marriage is a great thing. I'm happy about mine. I'm getting ready to get married, and me and this young lady have had deep conversations and continue to have more conversations, and we're growing. We're growing together, and we're learning each other. And she's making sure that I learn her. And in the same consequences, because I've been so guarded, I'm opening up and letting her learn me.
Right.
And that's what I think is going to be the key to our success.
And I think too, I think that part of, I know, you had mentioned about experimenting. I think one of the major fails of marriage is that we get married with limited knowledge. So because we're getting married with limited knowledge, we aren't studying to understand what we're getting into. We're just trying to do it. And while we're doing it, we figure we'll figure it out as we go along. It's the same reason. It's just the mentality that we have and the approach that we have to stuff. We get jobs because we want the money, not because we want to do the work. We look at what it pays and say, this is the money that I want to make, not what the job requires. And am I willing to do everything that the job requires? So we can get the job, but can we keep it? Because we're not doing the work that is necessary for us to keep this job. So we're finding women, we're marrying women, but can we keep them? Because we never really looked at what marriage is supposed to be and what it really looks like. And so, and then if we adopt this society's mentality of one and done, you do something I don't like and it's over and I don't have to take this. But you do. I don't think you understand what vows are. When you do have to take it, you do have to do that. You do have to, be a part of that. So it's not something that you get to just, say, oh, well, I'm not doing this today. No, that's every day. It's one of those situations like being a parent. You don't get to say, oh, I'm not a mother today. I'm not a father today. No, you're a mother, you're a father every day. There are no days off. There are no sick days because that's the position that you're in. And you have to understand that whenever you sign up for something that is a lifetime position, you have to be prepared and equipped to do it for a lifetime. And a lot of times we're not really ready to make life commitments. We like to make commitments for things that benefit us.
I think a lot of times things are not built on solid ground. Things are built on sand. And we don't take the time to develop and build that foundation that when a storm comes, you can withstand the storm. You understand what I'm saying? So it takes time to do that. And most of us go into a relationship, we fall in love, and we get married, and we had no understanding that he liked to do this, or she liked to do this, or she liked to go here, he liked to go there, or she liked to do this. The foundation was never settled. It was never cemented. So therefore, the first storm that comes along just wrecks the whole house.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely. So yeah, I think we really, I hope that some people are really paying attention to all of this. One, because you're getting honest, some honest answers from some real men, and hopefully, even if it's not the answer that you need, it at least sparks some conversation that you and your mate can have. But we have to realize that this marriage thing, man, it's a serious situation. And in order for it to last, in order for it to have longevity, your marriage can't get stale, which, takes us to our next point, and possibly last point, of how do you keep your marriage fresh? How do you keep the relationship fresh? Because when I'll start it by saying it's easy for us to get in autopilot. It's easy for us to get the spirit of familiarity and not be persistent and not do the things that are necessary, because we're accustomed and we're taking someone or our relationship for granted and just assuming that they're going to be there, assuming they're going to do this, assuming that they're going to provide this, when in essence you're doing nothing to deserve those things. And no, it's not a tick for tack, but I believe that you should make someone want to do something, not make them feel forced to do it. I always want my wife to do for me, but I want her to do for me because she feels like I deserve that. Not she's doing me a favor, or not, she's doing this to shut me up. No, I don't want to be tolerated. I want to be celebrated in everything that we do. I want it to be because I earned your celebration and I'm deserving of what you're giving me. When we have that type of bond and you're doing things from that perspective, then we'll have longevity. But when you're doing it just because it's your job, then you'll become like Marshawn Lynch, and you'll be doing just enough not to get fired, but never doing enough to make somebody happy. So how do we keep it fresh?
I'm gonna be the first. There have been times where in my marriage we struggle with keeping it fresh, and I'll charge it on me, and just kind of not being, like you said, autopilot becomes easy, and it becomes so like between work, businesses, the kids, it's easy to kind of go through a week and then realize I ain't really spent no time with my wife because we just been ships passing by. And just kind of when that happens, just kind of reminding, all right, we need to take some time. Even if it's 15 minutes, let's spend this 15 minutes just focusing on each other. And I think, when we do acknowledge it, we recognize it, and we plan things and start to do things. Or if I know that we got a weekend free coming up, I might, let's get a quick getaway, something quick. I think some other things, you do, games. Like we got, I forgot this one game that I ordered off of Amazon where it's like you have different cards and there's different tasks that you play the card and they got to do the task. It's like silly stuff. Like
right.
you gotta do 30 minutes of a foreign language. I mean, a foreign
way.
When you say y'all play games, you got it off Amazon. You don't even know what I was thinking. It wasn't Monopoly. We say, yeah, it's a little game you play.
No.
Amazon. This got X-rated real quick. I said, hold on.
He said, hold on, this is a family broadcast.
This is so no, yeah. So I think those are different ways to kind of freshen it up, and just you have to be creative and realize you got to be creative, and you don't have to spend money all the time.
Right.
And I think we one of the things we used to do is like, because one of our first dates was we used to go to 7-Eleven, get 2 big bites, 2 bags of chips and a Slurpee, and that was like our date because we were broke.
Right. But listen, it worked.
So sometimes we go back to one date. That date was like $20 or less. I tell you, I need to start doing that more often.
Right.
It's just like those little small things that kind of like that you used to do, just kind of remind yourself and just kind of put them in place.
Absolutely.
And if you can, create a schedule. as much as possible, because that's going to help build the consistency and help you when you get on autopilot. If you automatically have it in your schedule, then it's automatic. Whether y'all had a good week or bad week, you still need to make it happen.
Absolutely. So here's one of the comments that somebody gave us. Rusty said, sometimes to keep it fresh, you have to be willing to take some risk and do some things out of your box.
Yep.
Which is excellent.
Man, Russ.
Yes, I agree.
So this is one area I've had in previous marriage, so I can speak to this a little bit. And I'm trying to, with this new relationship I have now, trying not to get in that rut, because that's what it is a rut. It's a familiarity, it's a comfortability, it's a zone you've made so much, you've reached this plateau of money, you got the house, you got the cars, you got the 2 kids, the picket fence, there's no more to life, you're good. But in the same token, everybody's unhappy, but we got money and all the other things, but we're both unhappy because we're not keeping it fresh. So there's a couple of things I say that I'm working on that I think that will work in most cases. And I got to say this here. One, it takes 2. It can't be just one. It takes 2. Secondly, it takes communication. And the communication has always got to be open, man. And it can't be one thing you guys said earlier, both the Marcus and the gentleman on the lower level left there said earlier, is being open and vulnerable and being able to speak your truth without being judged or whatever the thing, be humble in whatever you do in your delivery. Third thing I would say, the vision is always the vision. I have vision for business. I have vision for my family. I have vision for my wife. I have vision for our love life. I have vision for everything. And we write it down. We're writing it down and we're making it plain. And we keep on addressing it on a weekly, daily, monthly basis. We're going to be looking at this thing all the time moving forward. The other thing is that, once again, like Rusty said, doing things that I don't like to do. I'm going to tell you something now. This current relationship, I probably have done more things that I don't like to eat, things I don't like to do, places I don't want to go. But guess what? I'm doing it. Right. And guess what? It's opening my eyes. It's opening up my orifice. It's opening up my ting. I tell you, I get these tinglings now, which I never got before because I never did these things before. And it makes things new and fresh and all that kind of good stuff. So those are the things I would say that help you out. And then being creative, like the pastor said there too, being creative in whatever you do. And then once again, the way you got her is the way you keep her. What we tend to do is what we did to get her, we stopped doing along the way. Like he said about the slushy and the potato chips and whatever the $20 date was. Those are the things you did in the beginning. Continue to do those all the way through. Now it's Ruth Chris or Capital Grill, but it is what it is.
Right. Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah. So if keeping things fresh is your desire, I think it's super important for both couples, for both partners to be willing to go beyond their personal preferences. And many couples, over the years that I've witnessed, things go stale when they stop liking each other. It's very possible to love each other and not like one another. People. And a way to keep things fresh is to always experience new things. And sometimes experiencing new things is experiencing old things from a new perspective.
Right.
There are things you guys did, when you first met, and so every now and again you got to revisit it, as a new experience, and you got to be willing to trust one another in new spaces, because many couples, I've counseled thousands of couples over the past almost 20 years, and one of the areas where I see couples, they struggle is when they no longer desire to please one another.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And when that happens, you know, it's just a cancer. You know, the bad parts begin to eat away at the good parts.
Yep.
You know, so the things that y'all do well will suffer because there's a deficit in other areas. So with that being said, you know, stay attractive because this is important.
Yeah,
this is important.
You said something right there. Doc.
Find you attractive.
Yeah, you said something right there that people don't like to address or talk about. But I would say, you know, I would say this too, that sometimes we don't leave room and space for our mate to grow, right? So, you know, I think that you are doing yourself a disservice if you think that 10 years later, you're with the same girl or the same guy that you were with 10 years ago. If you are, something is wrong. Because if you have not grown, if you have not matured, if you have not gotten better, if you have not developed to become something different, to be something greater, to be something better, then we already have a problem. And so if I don't change my view of you, if I don't change my perspective of you, if I don't leave room and space for you to grow and to become something better, then I'm going to keep dating you, treating you, loving you at the 10-year ago you. And you have developed, you know, 10 years ago, you like Cheetos and now you like Doritos. And I keep coming home with these Cheetos that you don't eat no more because I have not been paying attention to the fact that you've grown, that you've changed. And it can be something as minor as that. But it just shows that you are not paying attention. It shows that you are in autopilot and that you are not attentive to what is actually going on in your relationship. And I think that even outside of, you know, because you brought up staying attractive, like that is important. You know, you will be surprised how many people have self-esteem issues but they only have self-esteem issues in their relationship. They don't personally have self-esteem issues. They just have it in their relationship. But and part of that is because that there's a deficit in the area of communication. So because the deficit of communication leaves you wondering, then you automatically assume something that may not be true just because there's a deficit in understanding. And so, you know, like, I don't know, you know, me and my wife, we do all kinds of, you know, stuff. And it's like, we will, like, I don't have a problem because listen, there's not another man in the world that can be the type of husband to my wife that I am. But I'm not dumb. I know that there are attractive men in this world. So I would be a fool to think, now I ain't never met nobody that look better than me, but I know somewhere in the world they exist.
Sheree, I'm sorry. I don't know.
Boy.
I know somewhere in the world that somebody look better than me. I ain't seen them, but it's fine. You know what I'm saying? But still, even in that, I know that I am not the only attractive man in my wife's eyes.
Come on now.
So it would be, you know, I would be doing a disservice to myself to think that my wife is not going to walk out the house and see somebody else that is attractive. It don't mean that she's trying to pursue him. It don't mean that if they tried to holler, she was going to entertain him. But I need to not be insecure in our relationship and when it comes to me, nor should I not have enough value in her decision making to think that I need to jump in every 2 seconds. Like I laugh when people feel like they got to jump in and say, hey, that's my girl. Like, why? What don't you trust about her that she can handle that situation? What don't you think that she can do to diffuse that situation? Like, I have no issue with being in a room and somebody try to talk to my wife. Number one, it's a compliment to me that I have something that somebody else would desire. But I also understand that it's not something that they can have. But I don't think that I need to run in and be like, hey, back up. That's my wife, blah, blah. I don't need to do that. I can let her handle it and I just walk up and grab her hand and we walk away. I don't have to address it because I'm secure in my relationship and what we have established and what we've built and the respect that we have with and for each other is going to be taken care of. But to keep it fresh, I can't be stepping out though looking like I'm homeless and somebody about to give me $1, I'm about to squeegee. Like it, I need to be presenting myself in a manner that is going to make her remain attracted to me.
Mm-hmm.
What's crazy, bro? And another point that people share as it relates to a long-term marriage, if you're gonna stay together forever to when y'all die, is that in a long-term monogamous relationship, you are going to have to master learning how to like what you don't like.
Right. Absolutely.
And that is a lot. Because it may be, because Marcus said, as you grow older, you change, your body changes, and if you guys are going to stay together forever, then the love making is going to change.
Mm-hmm.
All that changes.
Right.
And things, if you're going to be together until one, Santa often say, I'm going to love you until one of us dies. If you're going to love somebody until they die, you have to learn to enjoy what you don't enjoy.
Yep.
Because it ain't going nowhere. And what I've learned about marriage is whatever present pre-marriage only gets worse after because it's human to become comfortable and to kind of be comfortable in whoever you are.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the worst part of that, the part that you love, the other 90%, but that 10% get worse because you add compound on top of it. And y'all been in love for 10 years, and she been chewing gum where you hate for 10 years. And by the 10th year, it's like it's louder at year 10 than it was at year 1.
Yeah.
So if you pass gas, it's crazy ways when you hate it, by that 10th year, it's seemingly 10 times worse.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
And that's true. That's true. And like sometimes you have to, so my wife, she will do some things that she don't really care to do. I will do some things that I don't really care to do. And we've talked sometimes, and it's like, I don't really want to be there, but I want to be with you.
Wow. So
I'm with you while you want to be here. So I'm here, but I'm really just with you. I'm not really here because I don't really want to be here.
And man, let me ask you this. So what about love making? So what about when your spouse want to try something that you may not be into, not want to do it, but they really, 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 really like that? I like when we do that, but your spouse hate it.
So that's communication. You got to communicate with that, and you got to be careful. That's why communication is important with that. You got to be careful with that because number one, if there's any type of insecurity in your relationship, trying to introduce something new sexually will raise the question of where'd you get that? Because we've been together for 8 years and we ain't never did that. Now all of a sudden you want to try this spinning off the ceiling fan. Where you get that at? So you got to be careful. You got to be careful with how you introduce new things, and that's why communication is important. Because as you communicate with that, then you're able to have the conversation possibly before you have the experience, so that it's something that the both of you can experience together, or even if it's something of old that you used to enjoy that you guys weren't enjoying together, and you realize that I really like that, or I miss that, or I want that, you need to be able to communicate that this is something that I really like, even though it may be something that you really don't like. Mm-hmm. So listen, how can we do this? How can we accomplish this, without it becoming something that becomes a problem or an issue?
So I got a question for the panel. How long have you been married, my brother?
I'll be 15 years in December.
And Marcus?
I'll be starting chapter 24 this year. Next month.
Quick question for you guys. I'm going to ask this question because this is important to me because I'm learning. I'm getting ready to get married. Is there anything your wife doesn't know about you?
Absolutely. And there's going to be some stuff that she ain't going to know. It's between me and the Lord.
I defer to my elder.
Absolutely. What are you talking about? Let me tell you something. Everything, listen, I think that you should be able to talk about everything, right? But I don't think that everything has to be disclosed. There are some things that transpired before her that she don't need to know about. Now, the reason I say that is because it's irrelevant. It has no value or weight, nor is it in any type of way a threat to our relationship or any of that. But because of that, you can put them ears down, baby. I ain't about to tell you nothing. She put them ears up.
Yeah,
but no, that's not nope. Because guess what? The reality is, while you think that you are doing good, you really could be doing harm. Because when you see something, you can't unsee it. When you hear something, you can't unhear it. And while it may seem like it's the right thing to do, it is not always the right thing to do. It's not always the wise thing to do, because something that has no value can become something that is weighing too much on the relationship, and it really didn't have any value or have anything to do with the relationship.
So we're talking about from the men's perspective, and Marcus, I'm just talking now out loud because I'm going through it, guys. I'm getting ready to get married October 15th to a beautiful young lady, Tasha Horton, in Cancun. Can't wait. But once again, I'm still learning stuff. You guys been married a long time. I got questions because we're men, and,
right?
And I say men, women from Venus, men from Mars. How do you deal with the emotional roller coasters?
Patience.
Ride it. Ride the roller coaster.
Listen, that's a good one. Because sometimes when you ride the roller coasters, it can be a lot of fun. Sometimes you just gotta know when to get off and get on.
Okay.
Listen,
okay.
I'll tell you this. Me and my wife, we went through a stage, because I'm a fixer by nature, right? You give me a problem, I want to give you a solution. That's just the way I'm wired. And so we went through a phase where that nature of mine was irritating to her, because every time she talked to me, she wasn't looking for a resolve. She wasn't looking for an answer. And sometimes she just wanted me to be an ear. So I had to learn the difference. So then we had to go through the trial and error part, where then I was just the ear and I wasn't responding. It's like, well, you ain't got nothing to say. And it's like, well, listen, you gotta let me know. Is this one of the times that I got a speaking part, or do I just listen? So you have to go through those experiences. You have to navigate through that to figure out or find out how to handle it. But at the end of the day, the reality was, as long as I was present and she knew she wasn't going through it by herself, that was what really mattered. And so, she would know that it had to get to a point where I kind of was waiting on a release. You know what I'm saying? Like, give me the release to be Marcus. You know what I'm saying? And say what I think, or what I would do, or what I think, should happen here, or what have you. But it's just about being able to identify with where they are and to be there with them. And the same vice versa. To be able to, for us to share where we are, because that's something that we don't do very well. We might be thinking stuff. We might be, dealing with stuff at work. And so as men, we never want to dump on our wives, because we understand not that they aren't strong, but we understand that they are they're the helpmate. But I never want to be a burden to you. I'm here to take your problems. I'm here to, to be your resolve. I'm here. So I'm not trying to come in and dump on you. You know what I mean? So, because of that, because of us being wired that way as men, sometimes we struggle with opening up and sharing things that we could share, and it not feel like we're dumping on them. Because sometimes when we don't do that, we exclude them from parts of our lives, and then we try to figure out, well, why wasn't you there for me? Well, I didn't know you needed me to be there because you never told me where you were or what was going on with you. So now I'm actually looking for you to console, to be there, to be a support, when you never knew that I wanted or needed that, because I kept everything to myself.
Man, this has been refreshing. I'm gonna tell you that.
Yes, sir. I love it.
And I like when Sherry's not with you, man, sometimes.
You see?
Yeah, sometimes, man, not all the time.
Yep, and that's a good point. Rusty said, Rick, you got to also remember that we have roller coasters too.
Yeah, that's true. That is so true, Russ. Thanks for that. You're true, that Russ. That's my man right there, Russ. Yeah,
Yes, indeed. So it's it's a lot. People think that marriage is just about being in love. Love is one of the I don't want to say least most important components, but it is overrated when it comes to marriage. People thinking that you just got to be in love. Love ain't enough for a marriage to be successful. It's not enough.
True.
And I think
you know how many people are in love and still get divorced? That's why I say I loved them. They just frustrated that it didn't work because love wasn't enough. You didn't show up to do the work every day.
Wow. Every day.
Every day. You don't get days off.
That's what I'm saying. Every day, man.
You don't get days off.
No days off.
You got to be willing. You got to be willing to relinquish your individuality if you want to be married. You got to be willing to give up your I for we. You got to be willing to give up your me for us. Because your I time, your me time, it gets small, and in some instances it is irrelevant or doesn't exist. So you can grow in your relationship to reestablish some of those things, but you have to be willing to walk away from everything that deals with your independence to become a dependent. And that's difficult for men because we've always been taught to be independent. So we struggle with becoming a dependent.
True.
I tell people all the time, man, when we first got married, my wife probably said one of the toughest statements that I had to hear, but it was just in her honesty. My mother raised me to be independent. She taught me how to do everything. I had my own place and was doing everything for myself. So I wasn't a man that had to get married so I could eat or so that somebody could wash my clothes or keep my house clean or any of that. Like I literally did all of those things myself. So we were married for a little minute and she was just like, listen, am I only here for sex? Because there's no room for me here. And so I had to relinquish some of my independence to make room for the wife that I wanted that I did not properly prepare for. So we're married, but she didn't have a job. So it was nothing for her to do because in my mind, these are the things that I do because I was accustomed to living by myself or on my own in my own world. And it was no longer my world. We were creating a world of our own. And in that world of our own, I never created space for her to develop and to be her and for me to relinquish some of the things that I was doing. So when she said that, it was, it was a punch in the mouth, but it was reality. And she's like, what am I here for?
That's good.
That was real good. That was good. Yeah.
Now, the bad part about it was when I relinquished the stuff, I never got it back. Like when I gave it up, I gave it up. I ain't do it since. I ain't did it since. Because that was the only way that I was going to take my hands off of it. I had to take my hands off of it and give it to you. And sink or swim, it's yours now.
Absolutely. Well, man, I'm about to head on out because
yes, sir. We all are. we all are.
This bed is calling me.
Right. Yeah, y'all got to go on in here.
Gotcha.
I definitely appreciate y'all, man, for jumping in and being able to have this husband edition of Couples Corner. It's always good when men can talk and share. And I think it's good for the women as well, because oftentimes these types of conversations and this type of vulnerability doesn't always happen when you talk to them, when the husband talks to the wife. So, to be able to sit outside and listen to this can hopefully be a representative of the men that, that are in your home and in your relationships. So, and men, hopefully we were able to speak some things that you could identify with that maybe you weren't saying. But now, kind of put some language to some things that you were feeling. But at the end of the day, it's all about us winning and all of us having longevity in our relationship. So we appreciate you guys for jumping on and being a part of this. And we appreciate all of you who tuned in and watched with us. I know we went a little long tonight, but we got good. So appreciate you guys.
No problem.
Thank you, man. Hey, listen, guys, pray for me. I'm happy. Pray for me still.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's good stuff, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, we thank all of y'all for jumping in and hanging with us tonight. And we will see y'all next time in the Couples Corner. And I'm going to have my wife with me next time. Or it might be her and some other wives. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
Gotcha.
But, it's all good. But y'all be safe. Y'all have a blessed evening. We'll see you next time in the Couples Corner.
Deuces. All right, yo. Peace.
Peace.
Love you, boy.
Yes, sir.